let's start. I may or may not. Good morning. Are you Leroy Smith, Jr.? And Mr. Smith was previously in court, entered a plea of guilty to criminal mischief. There was no agreement. I've received the pre-sentence report. Has everyone had an opportunity to review that report?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state has, Judge.
Are there any additions or corrections?
No, Your Honor.
Not for the state, Judge.
And so I guess what I'm going to do before we go any further, see, Mr. Coleman, obviously the victim's wishes are that Mr. Smith not be incarcerated, that he's paid the car repair, and that she really doesn't want to go forward with the case. Based on that, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Judge. I was just going to clarify that the state amended their indictment. Ms. George is no longer legally the complaining witness. It's enterprise because it was a rental car.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Judge.
What's your position? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of criminal history. It's old, but what's your position on that?
Oh, Judge, I laid it out in the sentencing memo. I mean, with that criminal history of all people should know to stay far away from criminal behavior. That with his history, that any future criminal behavior would result in or could result in prison time. And I also laid out the nature of the offense. While it's a criminal mischief, it sounds a little innocuous, criminal mischief. This defendant, there was damage to body panels, the windows, the fuel tank, the engine, the wiring. It's a level of rage that concerns me. What if, I know it's speculation, what if the victim or someone would have confronted him during this fit of rage, Judge? It just concerns me. And it's not your typical, domestic situation where somebody just keys a car or deflates somebody's tires. It's just, I think it's worthy of, given this history, the nature of it, it's worthy of prison time.
Thank you. All right, you may call any witnesses you wish to call, Mr.
Okay.
Jackson.
The state calls Leroy Smith.
Mr. Smith, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Smith, state your name for the record. Okay, obviously the elephant in the room here is your criminal history. You've got a significant amount of criminal history, right?
I need you to speak up when you're answering so I can hear you and so the court reporter can hear you, please, sir.
Okay, so you've got juvenile criminal history, you've got adult misdemeanors, you've got adult felonies, right? Okay, and in several of those adult cases, you were originally given probation and then you were later revoked from that probation, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and in some of those cases, you were revoked because you committed a new offense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, you've been to TDC twice, I believe. Once. Okay, and then state jail. Okay, and then you were sentenced to federal prison in 2001. Okay, and how long were you sentenced to serve in federal prison? 92 months. Okay, and so at some point you were paroled out of federal prison, right? Approximately when was that?
In February 04.
Okay, so you got out of federal prison in 2004, you're on parole. How did the parole go? Did you successfully complete it? Okay, so once you got out in 2004, when was your next conviction after that?
I never had a
Okay, so you have not been convicted of any crime since 2001. Okay. Aside from this, the arrest that brings us here today, when was your next arrest once you were released from federal prison? Okay, so you're representing to the court under oath that since your release from federal prison in 2005, 2006, you have not had any trouble with the law. Okay, so obviously, I mean, you were, dare I say, you were on a bad path before this. So what changed from your release in federal prison to date that kind of just kept you out of trouble?
Well, I had a bad accident. I had a bad accident, and I had a son, and I just basically just didn't want to go through this ever again. And I just started working and getting everything, my life situated, because what he said, what happened earlier was when I was really young, I'm 52. So at the time right now, I'm just to the point where this is like, I'm too old for this,
Right.
basically, you know.
Okay. So since you got out of federal prison, what have you been doing to keep yourself occupied?
I've been working at the Examiner since 2005, and I still work there to this day. And I work 8 hours a week for them, and I work for Zumos from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday. And I just started, I'm a driver, I started driving last Monday, so I just got a upgrade.
So you actually got promoted as most recently. Okay, and so between your two jobs, how many hours a week would you estimate that you work?
Right from the start, this case takes an unexpected turn. The victim doesn't even want jail time, but here's the twist: the damage was to a rental car, not her personal vehicle, and that small legal detail changes everything.
Like maybe 60 hours a week for all Zumos and like 8 hours a week for the Examiner.
Okay. So when you're not working or obviously sleeping for this crazy amount of hours that you work, what do you do to keep yourself occupied?
I have a son at home, and he just got a job too last month, so he works at CC's. So I help him, and I get him to work, and I get him back and forth to work.
Okay. Does your son live with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he in any trouble?
No.
Ever been arrested? Okay. Obviously you've been in some trouble. So are you open with him about that?
Yeah.
What do you tell him about keeping his nose clean?
Basically, that you gotta, so to do the right thing, you gotta work hard to get what you need instead of trying to do other things to get it. Because I explained to him I got in trouble before, and that what happened to me. So he's aware of what happened to me, but he's like the man that's in front of him now. He's impressed.
Okay. So when you're not working, when you're not parenting, do you drink?
No.
When was the last time you had to drink?
I never drink.
Okay. What about drugs? Do you use any kind of drugs? And when I ask about drugs, I'm including marijuana in that. Do you? Okay. And is it true that you, on July 1st, you went and took a urinary analysis on your own accord?
Yeah, and I paid for it.
Okay. And do you know what the results to that are?
Yeah.
What?
She told me that I was negative on everything.
Okay. And we do have a copy of that, Your Honor. Okay. So let's talk about this incident on September 3rd of 2023. What brought about this incident?
My family was going through how can I say it? Like my son and his mom was going. His mom's brother was going through some things that they didn't really what's my need, but we were all getting threatened. And 3 days after this happened, my son got killed. And me and my wife was going through some things, and I just got emotional.
No, so more specifically, on September 3rd of 2023, what led to you going to this address on?
I had got a call that my wife was at this guy's house, and I went over there and I saw it. And
So when you say you saw it, what did you see? You arrive at this address, what do you see?
I see no car.
Okay, so what do you do when you see her car? First of all, how did you find out, who told you that she was at this house?
His husband, his wife told me.
Okay, so just for clarity, the man who your wife is allegedly over there seeing, his wife called you and said, your wife is over here with my husband. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you drive over to this address. What do you do when you get there? Please answer out loud.
I basically like everybody outside, and me and the guy's sons, we started arguing outside, and I was trying to get them to get her to come outside, and the guy had her barricaded in the back room, she said, and she couldn't come outside. And I just got upset because I couldn't get her outside, and I messed the car up. And
Okay, hold on. So you arrive at the scene. You're calling her, asking Miss George to come outside. She's not coming outside, so you kind of direct your anger at this car, and you do some damage to the car, right? Why did you smash up the car? Okay, so okay, but okay. So you went there with the intention of just kind of confronting your wife, having a conversation with her, and you ended up smashing the car. Did you bring any kind of weapon with you? No. And you mentioned that the husband, some of his sons were outside and you're arguing back and forth with them. Is there any type of confrontation with them?
Yeah, they was threatening me and we was arguing back and forth.
But there was no physical retaliation, and you had an opportunity to retaliate against them if you wanted to. You stayed in the streets. Okay. Okay, so at some point the police are called, right? And how do you know that did anybody tell you that the police were called?
The guy's sons told me that the police was called. And
Okay. So where did the police end up arresting you?
right there.
So you stayed and waited on the police?
Yeah.
Why?
Judge West digs into the defendant's history, and it's long. Even though some crimes are old, the law doesn't forget. When a pattern of probation violations builds up, it can weigh heavily against leniency. This moment sets the tone. The past is about to haunt Leroy Smith.
Because I knew what I had done. I didn't want to like run or get caught later or whatever. I just knew I had done it, so it wasn't no sense to run.
Okay. And so what was that conversation like with the police? Did you make any type of admission to them?
Yeah, when they came, they asked what happened. I told them, and then I told them that I had did it. And he told me that he was just going to hold me in the car until he talked to everybody else. And then he came back and he told me that he was arrested.
Got it. Okay, and so you get arrested, you spend, overnight in jail. So you get out, and approximately when is your next conversation with Ms. George?
The day I get out.
Okay, and I'm sure there were several topics in that conversation, but was there any conversation about the damage to the vehicle that had been done?
Yeah, we talked about that, and I told her that I would help her pay for the car because I know I did it. And like I said, like 2 days, 3 days later, my son got killed. So I had gave her like $500 that day when we talked, and then I gave her another $500 like that weekend.
Okay, so all told, she had a $1,000 deductible on the car, right?
Yeah.
And you either paid or reimbursed her for that deductible, right?
Yeah.
And this was almost immediately after your release from jail.
Yeah, like the day I got out, I gave her $500, and that weekend I gave her another $500.
Okay, and this is in September of 2023, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't get indicted on that original charge until April of 2024, correct? So this was months before you knew the storm that was brewing.
I really just like didn't want her to bear that by herself because she got 3 kids too, so I didn't want her to bear that on her own.
Okay, so are you aware that the total damage to the vehicle was approximately $13,000? Yeah. Well, yeah, according to the estimate, that is the total, between the physical damage, the loss of use, that is what Enterprise is estimating their damages at. So, because you are aware that this was a rental car, right? Okay, do you think it's fair that Enterprise should have to bear that loss for damage that you did to the vehicle?
No, I'm willing to pay the damage.
Okay, so first of all, can you afford to pay if the judge were to order you to pay $12,000 approximately restitution today, is that something you're in a position to do?
I can make payments towards it. I have 2 jobs, so I get paid twice a week.
Okay, so you do have you don't have the money available right now, but you do have employment and you're willing to pay that restitution. And so hypothetically, if the judge were to sentence you to 5 years of probation, you would be paying approximately $200 a month just towards restitution. That's not including any probation fees, UA fees. Is that something you're in a financial position to bear?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so obviously the state's concern is you've been sentenced to probation before, you've been revoked several times from probation before, and yet here you are asking the judge to give you probation today. So what is different about your life, your lifestyle, as you stand here today from the life you were living the last time you were in trouble?
In 1995, I probably was like 19. I was like really young, and I was really looking for another way to coexist as far as like to take care of my family and take care of myself. And in 2001, I was still on that path, but when I got out of prison, 5 years later, I just decided that wasn't the path that I was trying to take because I was actually becoming an older man. I was like 31 when I got out. Okay,
so if the judge were to sentence you to probation today, are you confident that you'd be able to comply with the conditions of probation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so obviously there's some mention in the PSI of you having physical limitations. And on that note, you do qualify for disability, don't you?
Yeah.
And do you receive disability?
No, I turned the disability down because it was like $981 a month, and I feel like I can still work. I've actually found employment still work regardless to my,
But so you have the opportunity to sit at home and collect a check, and instead you're out there working 2 jobs. Okay, so.
Let me stop you.
Now pause for a second. Leroy served 92 months in federal prison and claims he's been clean since 2004. If that's true, it's nearly 2 decades without trouble. So should a single emotional outburst erase years of good behavior, or is the court right to be cautious?
I understand your position, Mr. Coleman. I don't think there's a whole lot more that I need to hear. Mr. Coleman, you want to make any final argument?
No.
I'm inclined, Mr. Smith, to give you an opportunity today. On paper, I don't disagree with Mr. Coleman at all. Your criminal history is obviously terrible, but it was also 22-something years ago when you were quite a bit younger. It appears that this type of offense and this offense are something very different than anything you've ever done before. It looks like what you were doing was probably stealing for drugs and delivering drugs and things like that. That doesn't appear to be an issue anymore in your life. So I'm also taking into consideration what Ms. George said in the pre-sentence report with regard to this being very out of character for you.
Judge, and I apologize, since we're gonna go, since you brought it up, I have documentation in my file that Ms. George contacted my office and indicated that she was being pressured to sign an affidavit of non-prosecution by the defendant and her defense attorney. If she's here, I'm willing to call her up and put her under oath. But since you mentioned that, I thought in the interest of full disclosure to the court, that's what she told me.
And just for the sake of clarity, that wouldn't have been me, right? Because I was.
Must have been the previous defense counsel.
Okay.
Like the number, second.
Yeah, I'm the second attorney on this, so I don't know anything about that, and that has not been disclosed. As far as I can tell from the discovery, that has not been disclosed to us. But yeah, we're happy to call her to the stand, Judge.
If you want to hear from her, Judge. But that's what I proffer, that's what I represent to the court. She told me that she was being pressured not to sign an affidavit.
Are y'all are still together?
yes ma'am, we live together.
I think the issue is if we bring her up here, it's not gonna change anything. I can't imagine putting her in front, if there's pressure, that's something that she'd feel comfortable. All right, I'm still gonna do what I think is appropriate, and I appreciate Mr. Coleman, you filling me in on that. The fact that Mr. Smith's had the same job for almost 20 years since he got out. What I'm going to do, Mr. Smith, is find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily. Find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of criminal mischief. I'm going to sentence you to a term of 10 years in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections, but suspend that, place you on probation for 10 years. You're ordered to pay a $1,000, so I didn't see this. Has Enterprise turned in anything?
Yes.
Because it's not in the pre-sentence report.
It was provided in discovery. The total balance, and I tried to call and get some clarity on this. The estimate shows a total balance.
Documentation.
What's the amount exactly?
$13,114.93 according to this letter from Enterprise dated October the 5th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. So, Mr. Mr. Smith, I'm not going to order a fine in your case, but I am going to order that you pay restitution in the amount of $13,114.93. You will be required to follow, obviously, all of the rules and conditions of probation.
Notice how the prosecutor brings up his clean drug test. That's a big deal. It suggests Leroy might not be the same reckless man he once was, but emotional breakdowns can push anyone over the edge, and the court still has to decide whether that moment of rage was forgivable.
I guess the only thing I'm reconsidering is the type of probation, only for my benefit. If, Mr. Coleman, do you have a preference one way or the other?
I prefer a final conviction, a post-conviction,
Okay.
or other words, straight probation.
Okay, all right, then I'll stick with what I did. I am going to order that at least at the beginning of your probation, you're going to be on the high-medium caseload, which means you're going to have to report more often, make sure you get off on the right track. If you do everything that you're supposed to while you're on this probation, then for all practical purposes, your case here in court is over. You'll be able to serve that 10-year sentence while you're out on probation. The other side to that, though, is if you violate any condition of probation, I've just given you a 10-year sentence. You'll be back in here with a motion to revoke your probation, and you will be looking at that 10-year sentence that I gave you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot of restitution to pay. And I understand you're working. I want at least half of what he pays every month to go towards restitution to get that paid. Work out a budget with probation. Don't think, a lot of people think, well, I'm going to wait. Next year when I get my tax refund, I'll put that towards it, but I'm not going to make regular payments. Do both. Make regular payments, and if you get a tax refund, it's going to go to that, so that that gets paid in full. It's very important to me.
One question on that, no, Judge, and I hate to quibble about that because we're through with this result, but my understanding is that Mr. Smith did pay $1,000 towards the balance, in the form of a deductible that's not reflected there. So if we are able at some point to produce documentation that the balance has dropped accordingly, is that something that, the probation department will have discussion?
Yeah, because that $1,000 was for the deductible to the insurance company.
Correct.
So and it sounds like,
But I don't think that $13,000 figure incorporates.
so it'll be, the restitution will be no more than, make it that, no more than 13,100, whatever the number was. And then if you get documentation to probation that has been paid, then it would obviously be $1,000 less.
We'll talk about that.
But the insurance company should be able to verify if that happened. So that'll get that information through if she should be able to get that as well, and get that to probation. So if you do everything again that you're supposed to on this probation, great opportunity. Obviously, if you don't, you know what you're looking at. I'm handing you the trial court certification. It shows that this was not an agreement, so you do have some limited rights to appeal. Also, I've handed you a written admonishment regarding your ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition.
Here's something powerful: he didn't flee, he stayed, admitted what he did, and even paid restitution before any charges were filed. In legal terms, that's called good faith post-offense conduct. Judges often weigh that heavily when deciding between prison and probation.
Because of the judgment entered against you, you're ineligible under Texas law to possess a firearm or ammunition. Possession of a firearm or ammunition could lead to charges against you. Firearm is a legal term, and you should read the written admonishment I provide you to see what devices qualify as a firearm. If you have questions about the laws that make you ineligible to possess a firearm or ammunition, or about how long that lasts, you can talk with your attorney. All right? If you need I need you to have a seat here in the courtroom. Probation is going to call you up when she's ready to go over all of your paperwork. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Judge West now faces a real dilemma: punish a man for a violent act or recognize a changed life 20 years in the making. What would you do? Grant him probation or send him back to prison after 2 decades clean?